Hello and welcome, everyone. We are live after the final siren of round 13 to recap all of the action after the second of the mid-season buys. I am your host and AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Tim Guest, and you can find me on socials at TimGuestAU. Now, for those listening on the pod, it's Monday the 10th of June. Come and join us next time on YouTube or X and get your questions answered live. And thanks to those who have already sent in their questions. And, of course, if you want a question answered, simply comment on the platform you're watching. And if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. Let's get some support behind this video. Now, of course, joining me as always is my co-host. It's Bales, DT. Bales, how's round 13 for you, mate?
Yeah, a bit of mixed emotions, to be honest. A bit of a roller coaster. I'm sure we'll all probably experience that roller coaster. Been a bit underwhelmed, so people can probably hear a bit nasally, unfortunately. So, but another round of food discussed.
So you're just putting on your sexy voice, mate.
yeah, potentially. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to chatting through these games. Fair bit to come out of it, I think.
Awesome, mate. Well, look, let's turn to our other AFL Fantasy Fanatics. It's Jordox, mate. How was round 13 for you?
Yeah, pretty similar to Bales. G'day, boys. Good to be on. It was, some dizzying highs and some lows. But overall, not a terrible round, but looking forward to, dissecting it blow by blow.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it pretty quickly, but I'm going to introduce our guest. It's the king of value. It's DT Lemon. DT, how are you, mate?
Very well, thanks, guys. Happy to get through two of the first of the buy rounds. We've got two to go, so halfway there. Anyone who's maybe feeling the pain a little bit, hopefully you can sort of see the end in sight. And it's an exciting time of the year. So had a pretty good week, so I'm up and about.
Mate, well, I'm glad you're feeling pretty good because I feel like mine's just going from bad to worse. No matter what happens, no matter how positive I stay, no matter how much I keep my chin up. I mean, just last week we're talking about LDU and bloody Neil, and we all backed LDU, right? But what did Neil go and do? Yeah, it just seems like that's the way it's going for me. Oh, exactly. All right. Well, let's get stuck into the round. Let's get stuck into how everyone scored. We'll start with our guests. Lemon, how'd you go, mate? How'd you score? What's your round rank and what's your overall rank?
I had a pretty good week. 2,090 I scored in the end, which was, I think it was a weekly ranking around maybe 3K, if I'm reading that right. And my ranking jumped up a little bit, up sort of 500 spots. I'm sitting just above 1,400 at the moment, which has been pretty good for my years. So, hopefully, I think I've got through the hardest of the two buy rounds for my team. So hopefully the next two rounds we'll see a big jump as well. So, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Jordox, what about you, mate?
Yeah, so I hit 1975, which isn't terrible. I was struggling to get a feel for what the par would be this week. I feel like it's a little unders, and I dropped about 400 spots in rankings. So I'm now ranked 1782, which is still decent, but I was really hoping to push towards the hat through the buys. But plenty of time to go. And I just wanted to say, what was the biggest issue with me this week? The midfield. So my 8 players in the midfield, albeit there are a handful of kids playing, averaged a whopping 71 between the 8 of them. Oh. And the second highest scorer was a first gamer.
Wow.
So work that out.
Yeah, mine was the same. Mate, that's pretty rough. Bales, all right. What about you, mate?
2059 for me. Pretty solid.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Go on, sorry, mate. No, I wondered whether you were adding up your scores in your midfield and trying to figure out how much they averaged.
Oh no, my midfield did decent. So, that sounds like I'm taking a pot shot. I'm not taking a pot shot. Just stating that. But anyway, we scored 2059. So that was a round rank of that was about 5. Was it just what? About 5? That 5K mark. 5637. Put me up. What's that? 32 spots. So it looked like for a bit of the weekend, I didn't think I was actually going to rise this week, and we'll talk about my +3 shortly. But pretty happy with the weekend. Creeping towards that top 300.
Yeah, All right.
Nice,
Well,
Bales.
turn to the dark side. I had an 1855, which was a round rank of 30-odd thousand, and it dropped me 2,500 spots to 8,300. So a bit of a rough round for Timbo. And Jordox, you're talking about your midfield and how badly they average. What did they average, you reckon? 74, was it?
71.
Yeah, mine averaged 70. So Billy Dowling was my second highest scorer, and LDU was my highest scorer with a 96. So it was a very, very rough week for me. So I don't know. Let's just there's not much else I can do now except keep looking forward. But we'll see how we go.
Tim, I know you throw around to the plus and negative threes, mate, but I think get it off the chest. What's your -3 and then your +3? Let's get off your chest.
Jesus Christ, I haven't really even thought about. Well, my +3 is definitely going to be Sammy Flanders, right? Like, what was it? 100 Jesus, I'm trying to work it out. 163 or something along those lines. I'm trying to figure out what 326 is divided by 2. I mean, look, and I had the VC on him as well. So, that was the pick of the round for me. But geez, man, like, Sammy Walsh 79, Jack Steele 84, Tom Green 77, Timmy English 77. Probably one of the ones that surprised me was a Lockie Whitfield with a 123. I didn't really see that coming. Nick Dacos with a 62. So, look, it was just a rough week. But who knows? Maybe the best 18 even saved me because I had some pretty poor scores on field as well. Riley Bonner 37. Jesus, 37. My God. But anyway, it's just a game. It's just a game, Timbo. It's just a game. All right,
Flanders
moving
VC.
on.
Flanders VC. Keep telling yourself.
Yeah, Flanders VC.
Beautiful.
Funnily enough, my forward line's looking all right. But yeah, anyway. Moving on. Someone else do their +3, -3.
Go to 11 as a guest.
Yeah, definitely +3 has to go to Errol Goulden on debut for my team. So he was going to be the fullback captain before Flanders put up that huge one. And I watched a bit of the game, and it was just beautiful seeing him run around and just get a heap of cheap ball. And he didn't use it too effectively. I think he just did just enough to make sure he didn't get too much attention next week. So he gets my +3.
How about the goal at the end? Cherry on top.
Yeah, love a last quarter. I mean, he's just when you talk about first, he's the definition. It doesn't matter what the score is. He will be out there trying to get some touches, maybe try and get a Brownlow vote. I don't know what he's thinking, but great game by him. -3 has to go to Clayton Oliver. I think I've been very underwhelmed owning him. I thought this is the week, decent matchup. This would be the week for him to put up a good score. And I think he only just got into my best 18. So, pretty upset with that one.
All right. Well, let's turn Jordox next, right? What about you? +3, -3.
I was gonna go Maxi. I reckon Bales might want Gawny. So I'm gonna go with Billy the Kid, Billy Dowling, to get him in on debut. Watch him on Thursday night as the only saving grace from what was an awful night as a Crows fan. To see him put up an 89 on debut, kicked a goal, could have kicked some more. Looks great. And he ended up being just about my best midfielder. So definitely a +3 for him. -3, I would like to give as a collective to my entire midfield, minus Dowling, but can't do
running
that.
laps on Tuesday night.
Can't give it to Clary because Lemon's already done that. So I will have to say Josh Dunkley. I mean, it's harsh because he's been pretty good, but geez, I needed him to perform this week. I really did. I viced Zorko that night, which, wasn't the end of the world. But yeah, Dunkley, he's kind of been my semi-unique guy that's kind of helped push me up. Let me down on the weekend. I'll forgive him, though, just this once.
All right, Bales, finish us off your +3, -3.
Yeah, so I'll get the -1 out of the way. It has got to be the boner, Riley Bonner. I'm like watching that game as someone that didn't VC Flanders. That was one of the worst games of football I had to put myself through. And I had to do a watch along on YouTube for that. So 3 hours of of people all having the VC.
Go back and watch it, folks. You'll hear the angst in his voice.
But Bonner going shit. Darcy Wilson can also get part of the -3 as well. He was awful because I was going to have to keep one of them this week, but now both have got to go. I can't keep both of them after that performance. But moving on, the +3. I love this man. If he was here, I'd kiss that big bald head of his. Max bloody Gawn saved my skin. Something shocking. As I said, after not going Gawn VC, after not going Flanders VC, I could have gone Errol VC. Didn't even get to really enjoy that too much either with the 151 because everyone jumped on him this week and I'd owned him for 6 weeks or so and he'd been pretty solid. But this was the first big score and I think I called it actually on Friday as well. But Max Gawn did everything possible. Did more than what I was just like, get a 110, 120, don't get injured and just get me a good score. And he went bigger than that and went 147, only costing myself and anyone that didn't go VC Flanders only 16 points, which is pretty good considering how Flanders went. So he gets my +3.
Cool, mate. Cool.
And can I just, I just want to just quickly piggyback on that +3 with a very, very good story for Jordox. Probably if this hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have even jumped on the pod tonight. But I tried to stay off my phone as much as I could today. I just checked a few times just for any news. And I caught a tweet from, it might have been, no, I can't remember who it was, but it was a journo who said, Simon Goodwin has just said.
John Ralph.
It was Ralphie, yeah. Thank you, John Ralph. He said, we are going to look at tagging Nick Dacos today because he's just too good around the ball. This isn't like a light bulb moment for the competition. I would have thought everyone would be, but it was just in the nick of time for me to think, oh, there's no Mason Cox. I reckon Gawn will go pretty well against DC. And, well, he did. And with the Dacos injury, which we'll talk about, that netted me an extra
82. No, hang on.
86 points.
Yeah.
So if it stuck with Dacos, I would have been calling his sick tonight. So thanks, Maxie. And thanks, John Ralph.
Awesome. Well, let's do a bit of a whip round on the Content Creators Cup results. Bales, how did you go this week, mate? Obviously, you're sitting up there pretty high on the top of the ladder, or the top end of the ladder. How'd you end up?
Yeah, very, very close one with DC. Just got the job done, really, thanks to Max Gawn with that last quarter there. Had Nick Dacos as unique as well against DC, which DC probably would have been a little bit happy didn't have Dacos this week. But, 13 points, just got the job done. So we moved to 11-2.
Wow, good job, mate. Good job. And then I was up against MJ from the coaches panel, and MJ is currently sitting on the bottom, or he was previously sitting on pretty close to the bottom of the ladder. And he beat me by 40-odd points. So, once again, pretty rough old week for Timbo. But obviously the Content Creators Cup, proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth. Make smarter financial decisions where winning coaches will get $5,000 for their favourite charity. And just a reminder, there's a bunch of free gifts valued at over $3,000 available for every AFL fantasy coach. Just head across to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL fantasy to claim your free financial freedom masterclass and a stack of tools and resources to help you make smarter financial decisions. If you have a mortgage, I can teach you how to pay it off up to 3 times faster without paying a single cent extra. And if you're paying too much tax, I can show you how to save thousands each year. Finally, if you're someone who's committed to building a wealthy, then I can show you how I bought 13 properties by the age of 27. Just head to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL fantasy to claim. And for more details, well, let's get stuck into the games. So we'll kick it off with the game on Thursday night with Adelaide defeated by Richmond by 8 points. Bales, I'm sure you're very happy about that. In front of 37,000 people at Adelaide Oval. The subs were Ned McHenry, who replaced Kieran Strawn after he injured his groin at three-quarter time. And then Kane McCullough, who some of us might have sitting on the bench there, replaced Tyler Sonsie during the fourth quarter. The only other injury out of that game was Prestia with a tight calf. Surprise, surprise.
So Jordox will take this game here. That was just to get back at me for chatting about Gawn, wasn't it? You just with the slight jab of the crow's, so I got to get back to you and Gawn. So we get.
I think I'm just an angry man. I'm probably going to have a drive-by on everyone tonight, just because I'm a little bit, I'm just a little bit agitated.
He's on edge.
Just, lashing out. He's lashing out. All right, Jordox.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a great night. I wasn't all that surprised, to be honest. But look, we're not going to talk about the woes of Adelaide. We talk about the brilliant win by the Tigers, who have been building for a performance like this for a while, I reckon. They've had some, after a couple of weeks where they were pretty much listless, they've actually had a few good weeks. So this was coming. Who cares about that? Fantasy-wise, we saw Jordan Dawson top the game for us in a great bounce back for owners after he had that terrible 60 last week. And a good shout out from Bales during the week when we did talk about him. There was concerns. I was worried about this niggling foot injury that he's been carrying. He looked fantastic. He was everywhere. The Crows looked to use him at every option. He took marks. He was all over the ground. Just a phenomenal performance from a brilliant man, and I shudder to think what would be without him in Adelaide.
Timmy Taranto returned. Bump with sorry, mate. Did we see a CBA bump with Crouch out?
I didn't notice it.
Yeah, he had the most CBAs for any Crows mid. So he's pretty much in there every opportunity. I think he was only out like 2 or 3 CBAs from memory when he was forward. So
yeah. Timmy Taranto came back after a pretty long stretch on the sidelines, which was a welcome sight for draft owners. That's me. And Richmond fans alike. He pulled out a 108 and looked really clean, really solid game from Taranto. That was impressive. First game back and just a lazy 8 tackles, of course, to get him up to the ton. Liam Baker, the everywhere man, he was similarly good. He was everywhere as well. He picked up a 99. The debutant for the Crows, Billy Dowling, as I mentioned in the beginning, for those that jumped on, once the subs were announced Thursday night, those that jumped on would have been very pleased. And look, he didn't just score well in fantasy. He played the ground really well. So owners won't only have that little sugar hit of an 89 on debut in a bye round, but also can feel fairly confident that he'll be sticking around for a little bit to make bulk cash for our sides. Unfortunately, the other cash cow that was looking good, Kane McAuliffe, was given the sub to begin the game, the vest, and that did surprise me after his performance the week before. I think it was against Geelong, where at halftime he had scored 50-odd. But more than that, he actually looked really good. But perhaps because he ran out of tickets in the second half, they thought, let's just give him the vest this week. He came on really, really late and put on 20 points in less than 10 minutes. So those points per minute numbers will still be solid. Unfortunately, the cash gen has probably sunk for a bit, but should hold his spot. Tigers got up.
Awesome.
Yep.
Any players we want to talk about out of this game?
I don't think so. Not in sort of depth. I don't think. I think it's just pretty much people did what they did, and not maybe like Billy Dowling, probably a guy you probably bring in this week, even though he's got a bye coming up. But besides, I think I want to just move on to the next game. I want to forget about this game. So
before you do, Bales, what did you think about Berry? Because I thought he looked really good in the first half. And then the Crows, in all their wisdom, sort of moved him more half forward, and he kind of floated out of the game a bit.
I don't know. I'm still not sure. I don't know. I don't know what the Crows are doing at the moment. Sort of, they're just not fluent. So I'm not sure. I thought he played okay, but I thought most of us were pretty poor. Besides, Dowling and Dawson, I think.
Yeah, and Strawny, actually. Kieran Strawn's worth a mention, just because, for anyone with Riley O'Brien in draft comps, he looked really good, Strawn. Really good. He was taking marks, kicked an early goal, but then he went off injured. I don't think he's been ruled out for next week, though.
Lemon, I did want to ask you, where do you see Liam Baker in terms of like a top 6 forward?
Yeah, I think he's definitely in the conversation. There's probably a few that are vying for that 5th or 6th forward position. I think the problem with Baker, I think, when Taranto gets back into sort of full fitness, you've got a few other mids, like maybe Presty will come back in at some point. There's still a lot of names they're rolling through there, and he seems to be a guy that they're not giving the full 80% CBAs to. He plays a bit forward, he plays a bit back sometimes. So I think he's a guy that could probably average 85, 90. I'm not sure I'd be expecting anything much more than that.
Sure. So kind of just on that fringe, right?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be breaking my team to get him in, but when you do need to upgrade, if he's the best value, then definitely jump on.
Sure. Excellent, mate. Thanks. All right, let's move on to the next game like Bales wants. Western Bulldogs defeated by Brisbane by 43 points in front of 31,000 people at Marvel Stadium. Subs for this game were Buku Kamas, who replaced Rory Lobb in the fourth quarter after he injured his ankle, and then Noah Answorth for Brisbane replaced Connor McKenna in the fourth quarter. The only other injury of note here was Alex Keith has torn his hammy and looks like being out for around about 6 weeks. Bales, over to you.
Yeah, funny how poor he's been since he's left for the Crows. Lockie Neal, 128, loves these games after the buys. He did it last year against the Hawks, and he's done it this week against the Dogs. But I assume that he'll be getting a fair bit of attention in the games moving forward, especially Saints. I expect the Windhager to go to him this week, so I'm still a bit nervous about bringing in Lockie Neal. Dane Zorko, 96, performed pretty well. Just didn't quite have that score that probably someone like myself that brought him in this week were hoping for, but we're all looking forward, hopefully, to this Thursday night against the Saints, because we saw what Flanders and Sexton did. Hopefully Zorko can go something very similar. The Bond, Marcus Bontempelli, had a pretty tight, very, very tight tag from Berry in this game. And I feel like we say it 2 or 3 times a year. Tags are back, and they are a little bit now. We saw a few tight ones on the weekend and in the last couple of weeks. And Bont caught one with a 93. Bailey Dale, 85, was solid enough. Probably want a little bit more from him, though. Tim English was disappointing. He's been a bit of a disappointment so far this year. And I honestly think Cherry and potentially Grundy's overtaken him now, based on if we're looking at the top ruck. So he's stocks are down for him. And then a few poor scores. Rebel 66, McRae 64. That made me smile a little bit just because I traded him when he got that 90. So, and then a Fraser with a 40. But Lemon, I want to get your thoughts on Jordox mentioned before Josh Dunkley with the 79. Is he? He's still a target. Can we still bring him in this week with that Saints matchup, or are you probably looking for a drop bit of value? Are you not really caring too much about the value for these premiums at this time of the year? What are your thoughts with Dunkley?
Yeah, I think you can still hunt a bit of value, but you do want guys that are going to be close to top of their line. I think Dunkley, among a heap of other mids, is probably a 105 to 110 guy, and you could maybe say there's 15 guys that might be in that position. So, he's definitely in the discussion, but he's going to have games. Yeah, he doesn't have a huge ceiling this year, and obviously had a bit of a poor game this week. So. I wouldn't be breaking my team. I'd be looking at him as a sort of 107, 108 kind of guy. And if you can get someone similar for a bit cheaper, then you jump on. Goulden's one that a lot of people picked this week. That's worked out all right. He was a little bit cheaper as well. So it's kind of like a baker. You don't want to be breaking your team for a guy that might not be guaranteed to be top 8 midfielder.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd still looking at him, and the good thing, I guess, with Dunkley is he's never going to be tagged by anyone, so that could be a positive. But then again, he scored a 79, he wasn't tagged, so just all these midfielders can just put up these bad scores. And then, Tim, I want to get your thoughts on Adam Treloar. So we were obviously chatting about these players getting tags, putting up bad scores. Adam Treloar just keeps getting done. We've said all year about this worry, but watching him, I don't really see too much worry at the moment. He's running on top of the ground. He's looking really good. Is he a guy that you're not bringing in before the buy, but post buy? Would he be someone that you'd be looking at?
So, look, now that we're past the buys, here I am talking like we're past the buys, we're halfway through them. But I guess we have got a view to being out of the buys and starting to look at getting into that luxury trade season. I mean, the first thing we think about when we think Adam Treloar is injury prone, but I'm actually wondering when the last time he was injured, because was it last year? Because I can't remember if he was injured last year. So maybe it's now been a couple of years since he's even had an injury. So look, I think he's definitely got to be on people's radars. Priced at $9.67, but that was before the weekend. So we'll see how that. So he might have dropped fractionally in price over the weekend, But yeah, look, I mean, I guess, we're just going to be looking at those other options. When's Bulldogs had their bye? No, he's got a bye to come.
No,
right?
so it's coming up, yeah,
obviously,
this week.
Yeah, so you're not going to be bringing him in obviously before his buy, but after his buy, and as we start looking at those luxury trades, I'm sure there'll be plenty of coaches looking to get on because he keeps leading the way.
He's just a tick off career best numbers too. His best season was a 111. His first year at the Pies, he's at 109 so far this year.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if you're going to have a bulldog, he's the only one that seems to have a consistent role.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, we'll move on to the next game.
All right, Hawthorn defeated GWS by 6 points in front of 11,000 people at UTAS Stadium. Luke Bruce was the subs for the Hawks and was replaced Ned Reeves in the third quarter. And then just had our little rookie, Toby McMullen, as the sub there, and he replaced Callum Brown at three-quarter time. Injuries here. Ned Reeves injured his...
Oh.
Sorry, mate. Just injured. Reeves did his back, so I'm not sure what he... Yeah, no, that's all good. Reeves did his back or some kind of injury to his back, so we'll see how that kind of pans out. There's not too much news about it so far, but we'll see how that pans out over the week. But yeah, over to Jordox to run us through the players.
Yep. So Lockie Whitfield led all comers for the Giants, which was quite an impressive return post buy. Owners would be happy with that. Kieran Briggs really got going, presumably once Reeves was out. Will Day's a really interesting guy. He hit a 109. He's probably hit, is that 3 tons in a row for him now? He
got a 90-odd last week, but I think he's been very consistent last month.
Mm.
Yeah, certainly since his time on ground has got to a peak as well.
Yeah. So there was talk of him in the 750s about a month ago. So anyone who did that would be pleased. James Peatling, another guy that was talked about, a while ago, I think when Josh Kelly went down. But then he was dropped and now he's back. He scored 98, so that's impressive. Dylan Moore, not bad with an 83. And then, the one we'll probably talk about, Tom Green, with another underwhelming score, 77.
So, with Tom Green, I actually heard from a mate that he heard before on the TV that apparently Tom Green isn't fit. Apparently he's still, that ankle apparently is still bothering him. It's not right. And a few people in the comments of the last video were saying, Bales, I told you shouldn't be telling people to get Tom Green in, but he was still a good pick. But now, Lemon, can we, I'm assuming we can't bring in Tom Green anymore now, at least until we see something. Is that what you'd be thinking as well? Oh, Lemon, you're on mute.
Oh, apologies. Yeah, definitely. You wouldn't be bringing him in right now if you don't have him. If you do have him, I'm an owner and I'll just hold strong. He's got the right role. We know he had the ankle injury that he's just come back from. So he's only 2 or 3 weeks post that ankle injury. He looked like he was getting pretty heavy attention on the weekend. There was always a guy hanging off him. He didn't get a lot of separation, and I think GWS just aren't looking the same with a few of the names they've got missing. Their ball movement out of defense wasn't great. He was still getting into the right spots. He just wasn't being used. So I suspect once Kelly and a few other guys come back, he'll get a bit more ball in the midfield and but it's definitely pretty disappointing because a lot of coaches have held him through a couple of tough weeks now.
Just the one tackle, which is what stuck out to me for Green this week.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll touch on Peatling, but I want to wait till the next game because there's another player there I'd like to get people's thoughts on. So, George, anyone else you want to touch on? Or?
Yeah.
I think that was just about it. Josh Weddle, just for Hawks fans, but no, nothing else fantasy-wise.
Cool.
Oh, McMullen, actually. McMullen would have really hurt some people's plans. I was keen on him. I didn't see him getting the vest, and we're just fortunate that it was the first Saturday game, so we all had opportunity to pivot, which, surprising.
Well, the other one I was concerned about being a sub was that James Peatling as well, but we'll wait for the next game to talk more about him. But the next game, which I don't really want to talk about too much, West Coast defeated by North by 9 points in front of 43,000 people at Optus Stadium. Subs for West Coast to Ryan Marrick, who replaced Harry Edwards in the third quarter. And then Eddie Ford for North Melbourne replaced Will Dawson in the second quarter. No major injuries out of this game. Over to you, Bars.
Yeah, Tim does not want to join in the chorus, that's for sure.
You can't
but
tell
yeah,
me.
Will
Can't tell me AFL that was a correct umpire decision. Anyway,
Well, they did.
Yeah.
not buying it.
But yeah, Will Dawson was the one that a few people jumped on as a defender rookie. Put up a big fat 0 after getting injured. So yeah, not great. Zach Fisher, popular trade-in. I know a lot of people jumped on, myself included, this week, and he put up a good score. It does say injured on the app, but it was reported after the game was just cramping, so there was no issues there whatsoever with him. Harry Sheezer, 104, ticked over another ton there. Played a bit more forward in this game compared to as more the CBAs they'd done the last few weeks. LDU 96 copped a bit of attention, I think, from what I saw on and off there, but 96 in a week where a lot of people were dropping some subpar scores. 96 isn't the worst score. Tom Power 70. That's frustrating. I thought he looked really good in the first half and getting a lot of ball in the CBAs, and then didn't really get much of it in the second half and was used mostly half forward. So I don't quite get what North are doing with him. And then Liam Duggan with a 66 there as well. I think he went off with the blood rule at some point. So not a great score from him. But yeah, the two I want to discuss quickly. So Tim, I know you didn't. You looking at him potentially as an option this week. Tristan Cherry, who I know that a few of us, us two included, jumped off of him. Is what do we think with Cherry? People are saying to call him a top 2 ruck now. Like, you've got Gawn, and then people are going, well, the other guy's been consistent. Could you potentially look at bringing Tristan Cherry back in? Tim?
Yeah, look, Barleys, I don't want to give any advice. Like, literally every bit of advice I've given this year, it feels like it's gone wrong. And particularly when we look at this ruck line. Like, I brought in Grundy last week, who I traded out. That's who I started with at the beginning of the year. So, I still think it was a smart move. He's got a good run. But I've got English sitting there just stinking away right next to him. So, I don't know. I don't think I can go like an English to a Cherry. I think if you're someone who was stuck on, like a Goldie, a very popular trade-in, as we know, Bales, right? Or maybe a Sweet, a Jordan Sweet, like I brought in. I definitely think Cherry off his buy is a great trade-in. And if you've still got, problems in the ruck line, you could definitely bring him in. But I'm not sure you're going to be getting off an English or getting, you're not getting off a Grundy, you're not getting off a Gawn, you're not getting off, So
the other thing too,
Marshall. So
just in this game Jordox. Specifically, I didn't watch it all. I caught the end, but just tracking scores, Matthew Flynn was putrid for West Coast, certainly in a fantasy sense. I don't think he registered a touch. Yeah, he didn't touch it, I think, for most of the first half. And look, it kind of makes sense. He's missed 2-3 months nearly of footy from that injury. Came back last week and looked good, and then the second week back is often where you see they sort of can struggle, particularly being a big guy. But just worth noting for the Cherry score.
Yep. Sorry, that was my bad. That way I was waiting for someone, but there you go. I guess the one we'll talk about now. Josh Simpkin, 132. Lemon. We didn't talk about Peatling, and I deliberately left it for this. They're both pretty cheap. Who are you picking out of the two? Are you keen on both? None? Like, is there one you prefer? What are your thoughts of both these guys?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So obviously, Simpkins had a few games out. I think I'm not exactly sure. Do you guys know what he was out with? He had some sort of injury.
He's kind of had
rested. I know he got rested last week, or was it last week? No, the week before. No, the week before his bye, deliberately because they had the bye. I don't know what it was before that.
He had a niggle. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it just kind of kept going. So they really wanted to wait till it was right. But he's kind of had everything under the sun in the last 18 months. He's had concussions. He's had just everything. He just hasn't had a run at it. So this score on the weekend blew my socks off.
Yeah, it's a bit out of the box, isn't it? So, his previous scores were 63, 40, 62, 80, 47, 48. I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. Maybe he was carrying something through those weeks and he's now refreshed and ready to go and fully fit. But the real interesting one for me is, he came in, had 60-odd% CBAs, and then Tom Power's CBA's dropped, and the big one is Harry Sheasel's CBA's dropped. So they're putting him in the middle ahead of those two. I'm not sure that's going to be an every week thing. I suspect he's maybe the third guy, and out of those three, and maybe he was just on fire on the weekend, so they gave him a bit more run in there. Different matchups. Maybe they let Sheasel get a bit more time in there as well. So it's definitely a watch. I'm not sure you could do it after one big score. I'd probably want to see it again and against a team that isn't West Coast.
Yeah, they got Collingwood this week, so that'll be a good test. What about Peatling? Would you go potentially Peatling over him, or what are your thoughts with him with those Giants injuries?
Yeah, I mean, Peatling's a tricky one. I don't know who said, but a few of us thought Peatling might be sub on the weekend. So I hate picks like that, particularly this time of year. A guy that you don't know is best 22, but he is pretty cheap. I mean, GWS lost, so that's the big problem. He was in the midfield and they lost. So as soon as those guys come back, he might be the one to fall out of the team, or they throw him forward, or maybe they just give someone else a run through there, because if they're losing, they're not going to stick with it. So I'm nervous. Both of them make me very nervous. But if it's the only way you can get an extra upgrade this week, you could definitely take a punt on either one and just hope it pays off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's interesting. Well, just quickly, sort of within a sentence, Jordox and Tim, are you interested in either Peatling or Simpkin? Jordox first.
Yeah, interested in Simpkin. I just got to have a closer look at it. But that was his highest CBA game percentage-wise since round 20, I think I saw last year. And he's the captain. If he's fit and playing like that, I think that's the role. So pretty cheap.
Tim, either you keen on either guy?
Yeah. Look, I really like Simpkin. We've seen him before have been able to average in that kind of 111, 112 mark. But he lost the role and hasn't had it since. So if he gets the role back, but that's why I'd like to see it a little bit more. Said another week or something along those lines. If he's getting more of those CBAs, then certainly looking to jump on. But in terms of Peatling, he's one of these guys that it looks like he's either going to go a ton or he's going to be a sub. And with Josh Kelly only probably like a week away,
next
Cogs
week
is
I
probably maybe 2 to 4. I think he's a bit further away. Cogs 2 to 4. The injury list from last week was 3 to 5, I think. So I'm just a bit nervous about Peatling. And look, I don't know. I'm not sure that we really want to be bringing in mid prices into our teams at this time of year. I think we're really looking for those kind of top 6, top 8 primo upgrades, especially where you got 3 trades each week.
I think I'd go Simpkin personally out of the two. But yeah, perfect. We'll move on to the next game.
All right. St Kilda defeated Gold Coast by 3 points in front of 18,000 people at Marvel Stadium. Seb Ross was the sub for the Saints, who replaced Dougal Howard in the first quarter. And then David Swallow was the sub for Gold Coast and replaced Fiorini in the third quarter. Dougal Howard injured his hamstring in the first quarter there.
Jordox?
Yep. It was, people have been saying it was a shocking game. I mean, it wasn't a brilliant game, but it was close. So not every game can be end-to-end high-scoring thriller. It was at Marvel under the roof, though. So anyway, no one cared about the game. It was all about two men, Sam 30-kick Flanders and Alex Sexy Boy Sexton. So Flanders went with...
Or as you'd call them, stupid sexy Flanders.
Super sexy Flanders, yeah. No, nothing stupid about that. So, yeah, Flanders, 163, 30 kicks, 13 marks, just your absolute classic seagull performance. They just put it in his hands at every chance. He took bulk kick-ins. And Gold Coast really, just held the ball. Yeah, they played keepings off. So, the amount of kick-to-kicks you saw back there between him and Sexton, who cocked up what I would say, you have to guess, would be close to a career best as well, 130. He had 16 marks, so that's nearly 30 marks between the two of them. Then the other high scorers, Sinclair had a good game. There'll be some pretty frustrated owners who were happy to see a bit of not a ceiling score from him, but a better score anyway, a 117. Rowan Marshall didn't really dominate Moyle like I kind of thought he would, but certainly a 107 isn't terrible. Noah Anderson, 98. Wanganeen Miller, 93. It was a pretty high-scoring game, except, of course, for Jack Steele, who's someone I want to talk about because there are so many middling mids at the minute. He's one that I'm really concerned about. Just quickly, other popular players, Closey, 55, not awful. Will Graham, 47. Yeah, not awful, but those guys are certainly maxed out in cash now, so you're going to have to try and get off of them. Took Miller copped a very big tag from Windhager and just got his way to a 47. I think he was on single-digit score at halftime. I could be wrong, something like that, though, which is so unlike Miller. There is a huge red flag now for mids coming up against the Saints after Windhager did that. Riley Bonner, oh boy, 37. That is just a disaster for those that still held him. And Darcy Wilson had a really, really good second half. He scored 34 points in the second half to score 34 points.
Yeah. Well, condolences out to Luke from Bull Boys, who does have Toot Miller. And then shout out to DT Lemon, who obviously got on, who traded out Wilson and Bonner. So you've been pretty happy with that, Lemon.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting lower games from them, just with the matchup, but I was definitely not expecting that kind of performance. I mean, you can see from the game, you look at the top scorers, Gold Coast defenders were just chipping the ball around and no one else could really touch the ball. So I think when you look at, Rowan Marshall's score and Steele's score, they did pretty well considering how many stoppages there were in the game and where the ball actually was for most of the game. So, I think we're going to expect a lot more of this. Defenders against St Kilda has been a good matchup so far. And it looks like, they got the win against a pretty good Gold Coast side. It looks like they might continue this kind of football. Ross Lyon's done it in the past. It's a bit of a concern for the game, I guess. But we just, as fantasy coaches, just have to sort of prepare for it and load up on defenders against St Kilda.
Yeah, agreed. Hopefully, Dane's okay. Fingers crossed. Perfect.
All right. Well, as we turn our attention to the Sunday games, just a reminder, if you're joining us live on X or on YouTube, just let us know your questions by commenting on those platforms. So let's move on to the Sydney defeated Geelong by 30 points in front of 44,000 people at the SCG. The subs for Sydney were Braden Campbell, who replaced Nick Blakey in the fourth quarter, and Gary Rowan, who replaced Shannon Neal in the third quarter. No major injuries out of this game. Over to you, Bales.
Beautiful. Well, Errol Goulden, 151. Now, let me just say, for everyone that brought in Errol Goulden this week, I deserve it more because I brought him in about 5 weeks ago. So there you go. Errol. Yeah, I know it doesn't. I had to get it in there. I brought him in. I'm hoping for this score for like 5 weeks, and it finally came. He's been good, but he's going to be a major target for if you didn't jump on him last week. He's going to be probably the number one premium target if you don't have him because his price is going north. Isaac Heaney, 108, just got the job done again against Geelong. Brody Grundy, 103, and Chad Warner, 100. So the main midfield core. I'm dreading the Crows game on Saturday night because we're going to have to try and... Anyway, I'm not even going to worry about it. Max Holmes, 95, was solid as well. I thought he might have got the tag from Jordan, but Jordan went to Stewart, who Stewart got a 78 in the end, which wasn't actually that bad considering he got that tag for most of the day there. Grind Myers with a 70. John Clark with a 61. Looked good, but again, Chris Scott just doing Chris Scott things, not playing his young up-and-coming player who had a very good, I think, was it second quarter or something like that? Or third quarter. Third quarter, he played well. And then Ollie Dempsey with a 54. Obviously, Lemon, you brought in Goulden this week. I did say number one Preem. Were you agreeing with that? He's the number one guy for Preems that you'd be targeting?
I mean, I brought him in for this matchup specifically. So Geelong give up a lot of points to midfielders, and I thought he was probably the one who would avoid the attention. So coaches, I'm not exactly sure what he's priced at this week now, but you just got to remember you don't get that score that you've just missed. So, I'd definitely be looking at who has a good run home, who plays, teams like Geelong and Richmond in the run home, because it looks like this year we've got a few teams that just can't win the ball inside and don't defend on the outside, and Goulden took full advantage of that this week.
Yeah. Well, he's been good last 3 weeks. He's gone 116, 119, and 151. Before that, he went back to back 98, 95, but the 95 he gave away like 6 free kicks, which is unheard of with a guy like Goulden. And then before that, a 120, 100, 127. So he's been really, really good. So he's been good all year. He's only had really one bad score removing opening round in round 3 against Richmond, which funny enough, that was our only loss. So yeah, he's been very, very good. So yeah, Errol, you got to jump on board. Geez, I sound like that KO ad now. So but yeah, so I think that unless there's anything else anyone want to touch on, I think that's pretty much it from that game.
Just
really.
Tom Stewart again with the last quarter, 5 points in the last quarter. He was on track for a ton again, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, doesn't like those quarters.
No.
Righty, Tim.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Essendon defeated by Carlton by 26 points in front of almost 90,000 people at the MCG. For Essendon, the subs were Elijah Sardis, which replaced Will Setterfield after he injured his knee. Repeated injury there to his knee. And then for Carlton, Corey Durden replaced Jack Carroll at 3/4 time. Jordox, over to you.
Yep, it wasn't that great a game. It was a weird game, actually. Essendon kind of weren't the better side, but they were better than what the scoreboard suggested all night. They just were kicking inaccurately, and bad kicking's bad footy, as they say. Nick Martin led the way with fantasy points with a 120. Had a huge last quarter. He's been spending a bit of time forward, which, you know, the role was brought up last week, I think, Bales, on something we were talking about. And if there were any concerns, I mean, he just scores wherever he goes. Absolute jet, Martin. He's a bit like Sheasel in that regard. Different players, but can score going forward. Zach Merritt got himself to 100, which was pretty impressive. He was riding a very tight tag from Chincotta, as most of us anticipated. He had a very, very quiet start, but he got going, Merritt. He just got himself into the game. And, you know, the sign of a good player. So 1 mark is all he got. So there was no outside game for him, but he tackled his way to the ton with 11 tackles. Jai Caldwell, Jordan Ridley, another couple of bombers who started really hot, had big scores at halftime and faded a little bit, but scored in the 90s. Nick Newman hit an 87. And then Sam Walsh, you know, just as he was looking like, you know, the most reliable primo mid, just about, he dropped to 79. And it was quite fitting in a week where most mid primos did nothing. Walsh joined the party.
Yeah, that was a bad one. I think he copped attention from a Caldwell or a Durham or something. I think they were trying to go with him and Cripps, so that was interesting, like that double tag in the midfield. But Lemon, I want to get your thoughts on Merritt. Obviously, he had a good game. I imagine he's probably going to be a big target for us all. He's now just ticked under he'll probably tick under that 900k mark, whatever, for next week. And then you've also got the bye there. He goes into West Coast. So is he someone that you'll be looking at?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, these games where he gets a hard tag against a pretty hard opposition in Carlton and he still puts up a decent score, I think that just sort of proves that he could be one of those guys who's, you know, at the top of the top 8 mids. So yeah, he's a guy I definitely want to target either straight after his bye or maybe in a week or two, because I think he's a guy that you could just lock him away and he'll play there for the rest of the year and he, you know, might average 110 for the rest of the year, which would be great. So yeah, really impressive performance for him.
West Coast and Geelong are his next 2. Tick, tick.
So yeah, mids against Geelong. I think I'm not sure if he'll get a bit of attention in the Geelong game, but West Coast game, yeah, that could be pretty nasty.
And Dom Sheed has been going to mids as well. So, but I think Merritt will be fine even against Dom Sheed. So, big target. Tim, I reckon we'll head off to the last game.
Are you going to consider bringing Goldstein back in, Bales, on the back of that game?
Oh, I tell you what, he played really well. I actually wish I did. I wish I did own him for this game. He actually was really, really good. He reminded me back of the Goldie of almost prime Goldie in a way. So, and Tom DeConing had a really strong game still. So, safe to say, I won't be bringing him back in. But yeah, it was good to see him have a good game, and my thinking behind it maybe wasn't was decent enough.
Agreed.
Hey, look, your rank's pretty high, mate. It worked out for the week that you needed him. So yeah, exactly. All right, last game of the week. Collingwood defeated Melbourne by 38 points in front of 85,000 people at the MCG. So for Collingwood, Jack Bytel was a sub, and he replaced Nick Dacos in the fourth quarter after he went off with that corked calf. And then for Melbourne, Jack Billings was the sub who replaced Christian Petrarca in the third quarter after he kind of succumbed to that rib injury after playing on. So yeah, he actually ended up going to hospital. The word is on the street that he went to hospital afterwards as well. So we'll have to see what comes out of that. But it could just be precautionary scans. But Bales, let's get through the players.
I think that he will probably miss he's got the bye this week. He might miss a week or two just because they do suspect a couple of broken ribs. Well, that's what I heard anyway. On the post game there, and Nick Dacos, they interviewed him after the game. He said he was fine, so there shouldn't be too much to worry about. There is every chance that they've got the bye the week after. They got North this week. Maybe they just go, we'll rest Dacos, but that would be a disaster for us all. I think that have all got him. But Max Gawn, 148, obviously was everywhere. It's safe to say if you don't have him by around after his bye this week, then you've probably got to look at jumping on him post that, because he's looking like he could be a top one or two scoring player in the entire game. So Big Max is on fire. Jack Crisp, 104, continued his really, really good form. And if people jumped on him last 4 or 5 weeks, you'd be very, very happy. So yeah, he might be a guy that keeps his role just because he's playing so well for Collingwood at the moment. Christian Saylor with a 95 was solid. Finn McRae with a 68. Then Dacos with a 62, and Petrarca obviously subbed out on that 51. So Lemon, we obviously talking about Clayton Oliver, and I'll get this will be the guy we'll talk about, then we'll sort of wrap up everything. I'm going to get people's thoughts on Oliver. He's on bye this week. He hasn't been obviously good. I think it just shows how important a preseason is. We've seen players not have a preseason. They might have a good game here or there, but their scores aren't going to be up there. We saw Sam Walsh last year, struggled for a big part of the season, came alive in the finals. But is he a guy that you're going to look to move on? Because it's safe to say he's not going to be a top 8 to 12 midfielder. He might not even be a top 20 this year. So are you moving him out on bye this week?
Yeah, it's definitely an option for me. I haven't done the math on who I can get because I got a few rookies who need to go as well. But yeah, I think the roles there with him, Petrarca's maybe out for a few weeks now. He's basically the number 1, number 2 mid at Melbourne, but he just looks just a touch slow every time, going for the ball, going for tackles. He's still presenting around the ground a bit, maybe not getting used that much by his teammates, but Melbourne are just a bit of a rabble at the moment, and I think he's part of the reason. He's just not fit, and they clearly trying to get him fit through the game.
Did someone from Collingwood run with him today? I didn't catch the game. I heard someone might have been running.
Crispy was at stoppages, but it's not.
Yeah. Hard take. Yeah, they were matched up at stoppages, and Crisp was best on ground. So, it wasn't a good game from him. And yeah, they're just trying to get him fit, but there's no guarantee a guy like that with a 0 preseason will get fit at some point through the year. It's hard playing AFL football. So I'd be concerned. I'd be definitely considering trading.
Yeah, but he does have North after bye, and then he goes into Brisbane, and Berry tagged him, I think, in the finals last year or the year before or something. And if Petrarca's not there, I think Berry might go to Oliver. So that's a bit of a flag post his bye. So Jordox, are you looking at trading an Oliver this week?
Very much so. Yeah, this was his last chance for me. I thought King's birthday, big stage. I need to see a ton for him to keep his spot, and he just couldn't have been more poor if he tried. From a fantasy sense, anyway.
Yeah. Yep. Tim?
Sorry, mate, what was that?
About Clayton Oliver. What, hold or fold?
Oh,
or trade or spade. I probably should say
trade or spade. And look, I did check. It was Nathan's birthday last week, so I did get that right. I mean, look, I don't know. And I think I'm not trusting myself at the moment with my calls either. But I think the way that I'm leaning is that hopefully with Petrarca out, he gets a bit more. He gets a bit more of the market share of the ball. But that's for me. I think that's fingers crossed. But I think we've got to be looking at getting him out of our midfields pretty soon because you probably want to have your top 8 midfielders in there, once we kind of exit the buys.
Yeah, agreed. Perfect. Well, that is the games wrapped up.
All right. Well, is there any particular questions or that you want to get through, Bales? Probably we're already at the hour mark, so we don't really want to spend too much time doing anything.
So, yes. So what I was going to say with the questions from tonight, appreciate everyone that's chucked them in. We're going to be live for our Q&A tomorrow anyway. So I thought, well, we'll just chat quickly about the round 13 players coming off the bye, and we'll chat about maybe a couple of targets while we got Lemon here, and then we'll answer your questions tomorrow. So
good idea.
Everyone that was putting them in the chat, very much appreciate, and we always appreciate you guys putting the questions. Normally we get to a few, but tonight, we're 55 minutes, so we'll just go through these targets. So we obviously got Freo and Port coming off of the bye. So you got a few targets coming off of their bye, and I think there's really going to be none bigger than, as the ball boys like to call him, the sponge in Luke Ryan, and even potentially his teammate in a Jordan Clark there. So those two guys are going to be quite popular coming off their bye. You've also got a Caleb Sarong there. I don't think we're touching a Brayshaw. Hayden Young is someone, if you don't have him, he looks like he's going to be a top 6 defender, so he could be a guy you look at. That's probably about it from Freo. And then in terms of Port, Butters, Rosie's back. Could you target him? I'm not sure. And then you've got Houston, who's got a decent run coming up in a few weeks as well for about a month. So he's a guy there. And obviously Connor Rosie should be back. So, Lemon, I'll start with you. Do you want to maybe start on it? Because obviously been the Port man. Do you want to start on those players that you keen? Can we jump on a Rosie this week? Houston, Butters, what are your thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, I think we're definitely, if you don't own Rosie, you're definitely waiting a week or two just to have a look. I'm unfortunately one of those guys who picked him up a few weeks ago, and I've held him ever since. So I'm hoping he'll hit the ground running, but I'm not expecting him to with the injuries he's had. Butters, I think, would be a decent option. Again, I think he's one of those midfielders that might not be top 8, but close enough. So you've got a few other options around there. And Houston's a really interesting option with the run he's got. I'm not sure if he's going to be close enough to that top 6 to do it for the whole year, but you could ride him for a few weeks, and then look to offload him for when his run gets a little bit harder. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting play, quite unique as well.
Could you do it now? The fact he's got Giants this week and then he's got Brisbane, so a couple of tricky matchups, and then he goes into that really good month where I think he's got the Saints, he's got the Dogs, he's got Richmond. I think they're the 3 of the 4, and he's got Gold Coast in between there or something like that. Similar run to that. Could you jump on it now with a couple of tricky matchups, or would you be waiting till post the buys when he's got that run? You jump on him for that start of the run.
I think GWS might be a tougher matchup for him, so I'd probably wait a week, and then I think after that it opens up for a few weeks. So Brisbane might be tough as well. You just got to time these ones. He's probably got 4 or 5 weeks where he's going to be great, and then around that he might put up 60s, 70s. So you might want to try and avoid that. Again, I think there might be other options as well. If you can jump on a Luke Ryan or a Jordan Clark or Hayden Young, you'd probably prefer to do that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Freo guys, what are your thoughts on those guys? Can you pay over $1 million for Luke Ryan? Obviously, Jordan Clark's another option that's been really, really good the last 3. So he's got James Jordan coming up in about 3 weeks' time, I believe, as well. So, what are your thoughts on those, the Freo guys? And Sarong as well is another great option.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I own all 3 of those, so I've enjoyed the last few weeks quite a lot. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Bales. The reason they've been so good in the last few weeks is because their fixture's been amazing for defenders, and it gets a lot harder for them in the next couple of weeks. Bulldogs aren't an easy matchup anymore. Suns aren't an easy matchup, and Swans, Jordan Clark might get the tag. So I'll probably, it's a tricky one. I love Jordan Clark, and I'm happy I own him, but I'm currently looking at how I get him off field in round 16. So I don't know if I'd be bringing him in because of that round 16, which is going to be probably a 60 or 70. So it's a tough one.
Luke Ryan?
He's very expensive. So, yeah, I think it depends how your team value is. If you're cashed up and you're looking to bring in best 22 players, then he's pretty clearly best 22. He won't get the tag, the James Jordan tag as well, I don't think. So he's probably more likely to be a trade-in target. But you've got to be pretty confident that you've got enough cash to do everything else with the rest of your team. Because if you bring in Luke Ryan this week and then you run out of cash, you might be fielding someone you don't want to field in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Jordox, what are your thoughts on the free on Port guys? Anyone that you're looking at targeting?
Yeah, I mean, Rosie is the one for Port. Clearly, as a Butters owner, he's just a similar price to Oliver. In fact, he'd be probably his price after a week because he's got the high break even. So, you could do a sideways there. I think what Lemon said about waiting a week on Rosie makes a lot of sense. So I'll probably be doing that. With Luke Ryan, can you afford to get him in? My question is, can you afford not to get him in? I mean, if he keeps dropping 140s on our heads, we said this about Zorko, and he's sort of drifted a little. Zork, 80 and a 98, I think, his last two. So it is risky spending $1 million, but I want Luke Ryan badly. So don't know how I'm going to get him. Geordie Clark, I don't think so. Not at 900. And like you said, with the tags going to him, it's got to be Ryan for me.
Yeah. Tim, who are you looking at for important Freo?
Yeah, certainly a Luke Ryan. But yeah, probably not anyone else at this point in time. Yeah, cool. Yeah, tough one because having Luke Ryan, I was looking at Jordan Clark, but that tag, that's probably sort of not. I'm not too keen. Maybe Butters could be a guy that I'm looking at because of all these mids, and when Rosie's back, we know Butters scores a lot better. So he's a guy that might be an option, but I might even be looking at bringing back in like a guy like a Harry Sheasel or a Josh Dunkley or someone like that. Because Tom Green was going to be that guy, but I'm not bringing him in anymore. So that's why Simpkin's all of a sudden an option because I've got to fix up my F6 spot, and Simpkin might be the one that needs to come in. So those are the few guys I'm looking at. Anyone else want to just touch on any around 12 buy players or anyone looking at?
Sarong's a nice price. I quite like Sarong. I think he can have a really big finish back into the year at 952. One to look at.
Yeah, I agree, Jordox. I think he's pretty much one of the few top end premiums that's priced under what he's averaging for the year. So he's got a year average of 113 basically. So I think he's pretty much guaranteed to be a top 8 mid. His run doesn't look particularly enticing, but you got to get these guys in sometime, and you might just grit your teeth for a few weeks, and then it opens up a little bit for him. So he's probably the guy for me that I'd love to own. So yeah,
beautiful. Alrighty, Tim.
All right. Well, Bales, you always know your bloody trade, so why don't we go to you first? Why don't you tell us what your trades are for this week, and the other boys, I might just get a bit of an idea if they've got any kind of sense of what they might be doing. But yeah, hit us up.
To be honest, this is about probably the first week this year where I actually don't have a good grasp of what I'm going to do.
You're kidding.
Yeah,
come on, Bales. You've been slacking off, mate.
Because my main two midfield targets in Sam Walsh and Zach Merritt are both on bye this week, so I can't target either of them. Tom Green was going to be the guy, and I was going to get a little bit of cash to get Merritt next week, whereas Tom Green I can't bring in. Simpkin, I'm probably looking at a guy like a Simpkin from a closey who's on my bench, so it's I think a bit of a low risk play, and if it doesn't work out, I can just trade him to potentially someone like a Liam Baker, a Jai Caldwell, or someone like that post their bye. Maybe a Dunkley, maybe a Zach Butters. They're probably the guys that I might look at. Harry Sheasel, they're probably the three. I might bring one of those guys in, but a bit of a tricky one. I have to go to the drawing board a bit this week.
All right, no dramas. Jordox, any ideas what you're doing, mate?
I mean, I've got a couple of obvious guys who I'm pretty happy to see the back of who are on their buys in Clayton Oliver, Matt Kennedy, who was better this week, but no, I don't want to ride him back into the year, and even Tom Stewart. But his price just hasn't changed since I got him. Come on, Stewart. He meant to go up a bit. So in terms of targets, look, I was so keen on Goulden. I got him in Dream Team. I just didn't have the funds to do it in AF this week. I got LDU in, which was, mixed bag. I think he'll be better for the run. That was a tough game against the Eagles, but it was wet anyway. I digress. Goulden is a strong target. So if I could, I don't know what kids are about. I haven't looked at that yet, but there's enough cash on Stewart, Kennedy, and Oliver to go. Maybe a kid, maybe a Simpkin type, and a Goulden.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 kids and Ryan.
Yeah.
One of those 2.
All right. Lemon, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I think similar. Still working it out, but I've got a few rookies on the buy that are cashed up, so I'll look to offload probably 3 of them, maybe Oliver as well, if I can squeeze him in, and then looking to get at least 1 top end premium. I don't know if my funds will get me the second one, so yeah, we'll see. I think we just have to wait and see what rookies are coming, and I might be grabbing a rookie that just gives me 1 week of a score and then sits on my bench. We'll maybe see. So I think now we definitely need to be looking post buy. What does your team look like? There's only 2 rounds left, so you just got to try and get points on field in the next 2 rounds, and then hopefully end up with a really good team when we get out of the buys. So we'll see how we go.
Cool. Yeah, look, I got no idea yet. I'll have to do a little bit of research, but something similar, like probably a Dempsey will go for me, and Oliver, and I've still got a Closey, so probably he'll go as well. And then we'll just see what I can do from there. But whether it's definitely at least 1 premium, we'll just see what happens from there. So but we'll let people know throughout the week. All right, well, firstly, I just want to thank Lemon for coming on, mate. What do you want to share with the people before we finish up for the night, mate? Anything you want to let people know about?
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. Always great to chat. Nothing really I need to share. If people want to follow me, I'm at lemon_DT on Twitter. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Fantastic, mate. We always appreciate you coming on. Jordox, thanks for being on tonight, mate. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, on X at Jordox2020.
Fantastic. Bars, anything you want to let the people know?
Just as always, if you do have a question that you'd like to send through, ask me on Q. The link is in the description of the video or the podcast, wherever you're listening. Small fee there, but it sort of helps the channel, but also gives you an in-depth answer to any of your questions, can help with team-dependent stuff, and obviously that's is highly relevant during the buys as well, because a lot of our questions are a lot of questions we get are team-dependent. So if anyone wants to send through a question there, ask me on q.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics, and obviously we'll be live for the Q&A tomorrow at the normal time of 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. per time as well. So make sure you tune in for that, and you can find me at Barles DT.
Fantastic. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us tonight, and special thanks, of course, for those who joined us live, and in particular those who sent in questions. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review wherever you are joining us. And finally, don't forget to tune in live each week on X or YouTube, whether it's after the final siren of the round, our Tuesday night Q&As, or our Friday pre-lockout chats. Rage trade away. Best of luck with your research, and of course, we'll see you all next time. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.
See ya.
Ciao.